right, thanks, Brock. Thank you all for joining us this evening. I'm Kathleen Glynn Sparrow, founder of the College Coaches. We're a team of lifelong educators who have worked with high schoolers our entire career because we love them. Even if you might not like your high schooler at this moment in the college process, we'll give you reasons to love them tonight, okay? I am joined tonight by Aiden, Greg, and George, three of my teammates. And we are going to give you some practical advice on how to navigate this senior fall. We're hoping we have some students out there tonight as well, but parents, we're here for you as well. All right, Aiden's going to give us a quick overview.
All right, so we're going to start the night off with the timeline for applying. So that's going to be around, summertime. So right about now, up until November 1st. Some great tips to reduce stress, since of course what comes with college is a lot of planning, a lot of work, and of course with that comes stress. So we're going to give you some tips to kind of ease that tension between you and your student. Demonstrating interest, so how to make sure that every single part of your application can be as strong as possible when trying to convince the colleges why you are interested in them, and make sure that you're doing all the technically right stuff to continue. And for visiting colleges and determining fit, that's going to be whether if you're really into cold weather, hot weather, small schools, religious affiliations, all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, financial planning for college, since that is a big aspect of the entire process.
Thanks, Aiden. I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself because I think Brock is still getting settled after his traffic snafu. So I'm Taylor Swift. No, I'm not, but now you can tell your friends that you saw Taylor Swift tonight. Hashtag you're welcome in case you couldn't get tickets. You already know I'm Kathleen. I've been in the field for about 25 years, teaching high school English, director of college counseling, all that good stuff. My own background, I graduated from Duke with an English major and then went on to Emory to get a master's in education with a specialty in teaching high school English. I learned more about the college process from going through it with my own two kids than I did with hundreds of families over the years. And that's because of the emotions involved, their emotions, my emotions. We all have the same goal, a happy ending with a good fit college, but we all have very different ways of getting there. But my kids survived. And if students you at home, if it gets tense at your house, just think it could be worse. You could be living with a college counselor. But Maddie graduated from Duke and she's teaching high school English. And Aiden is a rising senior at University of Miami studying theater arts. All right, I'm going to have you go, Aiden, and we'll give Brock a chance. Well, Greg, sorry.
Greg, yeah.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for logging on. My name is Greg Schneider. I'm a head coach with the College Coaches, and I specialize in writing. I work on Common App essays, supplemental essays, activity lists, all of the fun parts of the application process that students really enjoy. I know writing is not every student's favorite activity, but I try to make it fun and easy and have a pretty good success rate. I first met Kathleen many years ago when we were both at McLean School. She was the head college counselor, and I was department chair of English and Literature. At a first of the year meeting, we saw each other from across the room, locked eyes, quickly sussed out each other, and then decided that I was the funniest one. And we've been working together ever since. So no, I really love what I do. I've worked in private schools, public schools. I worked for a number of years as an administrator and teacher with Cirque du Soleil, and now working full-time with the College Coaches. And I'm going to turn it over now to Aiden to introduce himself.
All right, so I am Aiden. I don't have quite as many years under my belt, but I am very connected to the college process because I was recently in it. I was a class of 2020 graduate, so it kind of speaks for itself that I have had my fair share of ups and downs. I've been with the College Coaches for about 3 years, working with supplements, editing a lot, and I also co-teach the summer class, which is offered every summer to knock out the college essay and the Common App. And I am currently majoring in theater arts and film, and I'm expected to graduate this year. So very exciting time for me.
How about I will graduate?
I will. I'm
Love
just
it.
used to resume always says expecting, so
Of course, of course, of course.
nothing's
Okay.
promised.
Not exactly. All right, so let's dive right into it. We're here to give you practical tips, not theories, on how to get stuff done. You'll notice on the right that my friend Greg, who thinks he's hilarious, likes to put things into the slide presentation that weren't there when we started. So you can see on the right, he thinks he's hilarious with the Sweet 16 dog days, blah, blah, blah. You can decide at the end of this who's the funniest one. I do use nutty little cheesy expressions because it helps students remember and parents remember what to do when. If you follow this timeline, I'm telling you, you will enjoy your senior fall, new, right? And you will absolutely turn in your applications in a timely manner and do a great job on them, okay? So how do we get that done? First, it's Sweet 16. You should get your essay done sometime between July 16th and August 16th, easy to remember. It's not going to take you a month to write the essay, but that gives you some wiggle room. It is a lot easier to write the essay during the summer when you don't have academics on top of you, extracurriculars, parents, just kidding, no parents out here, Nag, I know. And then the dog days of August, you're strolling back, starting to get into that school mode. That's a great time to complete the common application online, that second half of August. That brings us to fall. I always encourage my students to reserve 1 hour a weekend in September and October to knock out supplements. Supplements are pesky little paragraphs that some colleges ask for in addition to the main essay. So they might say, in 150 words, tell us why do you want to attend our school? Or tell us about your most significant extracurricular activity. So it's good to have time blocked to get that done. Students, I would say, pick the same time every weekend and pick a time that works. Don't pick 8 a.m. on Saturday, okay? You're going to be sleeping in, you're going to just want to chill. Pick 2 p.m. after you've slept, you've exercised, you've eaten something, you're ready to roll, all right? One more quick thing about supplements. We always encourage students to put all of the questions in one Google Doc. So all of everybody's questions, all the different colleges in one doc. So you can see 2 things. One, how many supplements you have to write. It might be 3, it might be 13. And just as importantly, if there's any overlap, meaning if Boston College says, what sets your heart on fire? And Muhlenberg says, what are you passionate about? Bam, you can use the same response for both, okay? The whole goal is to submit on October 30th. The main deadline is November 1st. So you submit October 30th, you go out, you have a happy Halloween, all right? That is your game plan. Parents, you don't get off the hook either. While your kids are getting their stuff done and you are just relishing your time together as a family because it's so stress-free, you're going to do the following. Each high school generally offers the opportunity for parents to submit a brag sheet or a parent letter, which contains anecdotes about the student. I cannot stress enough how wonderful an opportunity this is for you. If you send it into the school college counselor, that college counselor can weave the anecdotes and examples you've given about how awesome your kid is into the counselor letter, okay? Really, really a hidden gem in the process. Really important too, if your student is in a school where the counselor has hundreds of letters to write, the more information you can give, the best. This is all strategic and ethical. College counselors, we love getting information from parents. It helps us write the letters. Also on the parents' docket, make it rain. Go check out the net price calculator, which is on each college website, to get an idea of how much you might be expected to pay. Brock, do you want to say anything about that now or maybe later? Up to you.
Yeah, let's talk. I think keep rolling. You're doing a great job. I think let's get to some of that at the end. That's great.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. And another good idea is to schedule a free consultation with the college funding coach. We have done lots of presentations with them in schools where I've worked and schools all over the DC area. We have invited them. They're trustworthy. They stay on top of things. And it is worth noting that the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, is changing this fall. So it's a good year to get on top of things with the changes.
Here's what I will say something on that.
Sure.
You know, obviously here tonight, we're talking, the title of tonight's webinar is largely centered around seniors. I will tell you, like a lot of things in life, the earlier you start this stuff, the better, right? One of my favorite books, now that I am stationary and back on camera, I can show you books. One of my favorite books out there is this book called 1001 Ways to Pay for College. Clearly tonight, we're not going to talk about all 1001 ways. I'd be surprised if we even got to 5 of them. But what I will tell you is that the more time you have on your side, the better able you are to be able to pick and choose from those strategies that make sense, right? And we all know about the miracle of compound interest. The longer you have, generally the better. You can start to determine, might you be eligible for need-based or merit-based aid or not? Totally different set of strategies. So I would just tell you, start doing some planning early where you can.
Awesome, thanks. All right, I will pass it over to Aiden, who's going to talk about how to reduce the stress.
Yes, from a student perspective and parent perspective, we're gonna dive into a few things because we have some crossovers and some tension, and it can be alleviated. And sometimes you can just wish upon a star and it goes away, but this is not one of those times. So that's why we have a slideshow. So the first thing is going to be expense. Obviously, expense is a huge part of the college process. Everything about college, college and money kind of go hand in hand. But your kid might not be thinking about that. You might be down here and be like, I cannot believe that there's a fee for my college to pay for health insurance. Then there's a fee if I have health insurance and don't pay anything. Like they just want to make you pay money. But your student, on the other hand, is going to be like, oh my God, like I can't believe that there's 7 waffle makers in the dining hall and no one's going to stop me from just going to town on that thing. So, the mindsets are very different in this process. And that's kind of something that you really got to think about. So, the parents' expectations and students' expectations they're gonna clash quite frequently, but it's not a bad thing. It's just something to be prepared for. Another big thing with parents is prestige. You want to validate the 18 years of parenting, as another bullet point is stated. You want to have your kid, you want to name drop. Everyone wants to name drop. You want to be like, my kid goes to Yale, he's better than you, she's better than you, all that kind of stuff. But honestly, it's once the smoke and mirrors are gone, your kid's just not going to want, it's not going to really matter where they like the name brand of their school. You're going to want to be somewhere where you're comfortable to be yourself. They just want freedom. They want to try adult things. It's at the end of the day, it's not going to be as important as it seems at the moment to have a really high class, really sexy sounding school. And another big thing for parents are you just want to be done. And that's very understandable. You want your student to pick a major and the major works out. And that leads to their career. And while they're at college, they build a great network, which gives them their first job and then their second job and their third job. And, all of a sudden they're CEO and, everything's wonderful. And that's great. But, life is the only constant is change. I was a marine science major and I completely flipped the ball after about a year of courses. And that was because I felt going into the process, I knew exactly what I wanted. And then you get to something, you might think differently, and that's okay. So don't really put so much pressure on yourself. Be prepared, but don't have a lot of pressure where it's not necessary. And then, of course, the students, you got to kind of bring them down to earth, and you got to take away, because they're not thinking about academics, they're thinking about experiences like those concerts, those great restaurants, that food event, social life. And that's mostly because they're very burnt out from high school, but they'll re-find that passion for academics once they, all of the good of high school is kept and all of the bad of high school is kind of weeded out. Because, a lot of kids don't like school because they have to do, I'm very weak at math. I didn't like math and I would, really struggle with it. But then that was taken away in college. So you get to focus on things you like. And so your academic passion will follow through with that. And then we have the magic answer for stress, which is action. And it sounds kind of obvious, but it's really not too it's just something that needs to be stressed over and over because we like to put things off. I like to see, I kind of viewed my college process as like a big basket of laundry, which isn't the most, amazing anecdote, but it works. So that's all that matters. And, it's just sitting there and you're like, oh my God, I can't do it. Or it's like, it's on your bed and then you just like, are like, I don't want to do this right now. And you just shove it back onto the floor. But, you just got to fold a couple socks a day and, that pile, it's going to go down. And, the best thing I would do is don't put it off because, the more you put it off, the bigger the pile gets. And, the less clean clothes you have. And it's just not a good idea. So just do one thing a day or one thing a weekend if, that's what works for you and you'll come out on top of it. And then this is my favorite one. This is everyone's going to experience this. Well, if you're going to college or if you've been in college, you probably had this. You're going to have a family member corner you and, they want to connect with you and they don't know what to say. And so they're going to say, so where are you applying for college? And, it's going to happen and it's fine. And, it might be fun to answer a few times, but it's going to get really old once, the holidays roll around. So a student is going to want to have like a well-meaning line when someone's just asking you that because they just want to connect with you. They don't really care what it is about. They just want to connect. So you could just say, oh, I have a great list of colleges and I'll let you know where I get in or I'll let you know what happens. And then you just kind of shift it in a polite and concise way. It's going to be a really good one. And then this is also a creative one. Nothing's stopping students from creating no talk zones. And that's not like quiet time. It's if you find a space in school or at home, where it's just you put a sign up and you say, it's a college talk free zone. Thank you for respecting the space, because a lot of students drive each other crazy with wondering, oh, I wonder if she got in. I wonder if he got in, all that kind of stuff. And it can be really it's not the best. And you just want to be able to have a place where that you'll be safe from college talk if you're overwhelmed or if you're just really burnt out. So you can really just put up a sign. We've had signs at our high school. I have friends that have done the same thing. It benefits everyone and it benefits yourself, and it's nothing wrong with trying it out.
So I love how they give me the mistake slide, and they did this because this is what I did with my own kids. Every opportunity to talk about college senior year, I would use it, whether it was a dog walk, a car ride, dinner, because I had a captive audience, right? Not incredibly effective technique. The answers I would get, I don't know, I don't care, Mom, we're talking about this again, not helpful. So what we did in our house, and I've suggested that other families do this, and they have told me it has been helpful, is in the fall of senior year, when the process is really kicking in, limit college talk to 1 day, 1 hour a weekend. We picked Sundays at 2 p.m. Again, everyone needs to sleep, eat, and exercise before the meeting. This kept me from pummeling my kids with questions about the college process, but it also kept them accountable. I can't tell you how many times at 1:45 p.m. on a Sunday, I would hear the pitter patter of feet running upstairs because the kids knew I have to do this, I have to do that, because Mom's going to ask me at 2, did I let my teachers know I'm missing class for a visit? Did I sign up for rep visits? Those kinds of things. So it's these little tips that will help kind of keep the peace in your house and also allow you to enjoy time together.
I'm going to talk just a little bit about demonstrating interest. Think about it as making friends or even dating. You want every college to think that they're the one for you, because that's important, because when the college offers you acceptance, they want to know that you're going to accept their acceptance. I think I said that right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next slide. Here are some ways to demonstrate interest in a particular school, and it's all about connecting your name and getting yourself out there and making those connections with those schools. Taking tours, whether they're virtual or in person, those all count as demonstrated interest. schools do track those things, so make sure you register. When reps come to visit your school, register through Naviance and Score. It's great to visit as many reps as you can. When I was, I don't know if Aiden did this, but when I was at Aiden's age, I signed up for every rep visit. It's a great way to get out of class for a few minutes. And you actually meet a lot of people and learn a lot about schools that maybe you hadn't even considered before. Also, if you're going to college fairs, make sure you scan your info contact card. Again, you want a record of that registration. And that, again, is the demonstrated interest that a lot of schools follow. Schools also host local events. If there's something that's interesting to you, please attend, and also make the effort to go out and talk to people and introduce yourself to people. And that often leads to more connections. And then most importantly, a very simple thing, you're going to get a deluge of emails once you start applying to schools. And it is important to open those, skim them. There is often useful information there, but schools do sometimes track whether or not you've opened their email. And that's just one simple thing to do to show that you've demonstrated interest and that that school that you're applying to is the one, even if they're not.
I'll give, this is Brock Jolly with 0 hours of educational consulting training. But one thing that I probably picked it up from somebody else along the way, Greg, on that. One thing that we recommend to families is that they set up a separate email that's specific for college, right? You can say, smithfamilycollege@gmail.com or something like that. Because then when you're in that dedicated zone, you can make sure you've got all the emails well organized and that type of thing. It doesn't clutter up your inbox. The only thing is sort of like Kathleen's message of 2:00 on Sunday. Got to make sure you're making it a point to check that email. There can be some really important emails in there, but nice way to keep well organized as you're going through this process.
Absolutely. And the colleges will email you students if they're missing a transcript, or they'll also email you to say there's an admissions decision in your portal. So worth checking. All right. Again, Greg put some clown around dialogue in the right. I don't even know if he knows what the word bespoke means, but let's just give him his moment. He doesn't. All right. Talking about fit and why this is important. So this is a time in the process where you're starting to kind of hone into where you're going to be applying, not where you're going to go, but where you're going to be applying. It's important to consider several of these factors deeply. Academic offerings. Aiden gave a great example. He went to University of Miami expressly for their fantastic marine science program. He met it and decided he'd rather, swim in the ocean than study the ocean. Pivoted to theater arts, and theater was his thing in high school. So the key thing there is make sure that you're going to a college that has some flexibility in case your student does change their mind, okay? Class sizes. A lot of my students want big. They're tired of high school. They're ready for more. I get that. But it's important to think, where has your student succeeded? What kind of environment? Did your student benefit from smaller classes where they could easily ask questions of the teacher? Will they be able to handle being in a big school where they check in via remote for attendance or ask questions via remote? Big schools are fabulous, small schools are fabulous. It's what fits your kid. Retention and graduation rates. Retention is how many kids are coming back for sophomore year. That's really important. A lot of colleges do a great job marketing to the students. Aiden mentioned the 7 waffle makers. You'll see climbing walls. You'll see pianos in the dorm rooms. You'll see state-of-the-art athletic facilities, right? Because they're marketing to the students. But if the students aren't coming back for sophomore year, that's a red flag. So be sure to look up the college retention rate. Graduation rates. Idea is this number, 4, okay? 4, no more, ideally, that's what we're shooting for. So check and see if their graduation rates are 6 years. It's not that the students are slacking. It's typically that the students cannot get into the classes they need to graduate. So there's little things like that that are worth checking. Academic support. If your student uses supports in high school, such as extended time or note taker, scribe, anything like that, he, she, or they may feel like they're done with that. They don't need it anymore. That may be true, but they may get to college and meet academic rigor at the college level and think, oh, I guess I could really benefit from this. So just make sure the supports are available there if the student needs some scaffolding. Okay, location. I had one child went to school driving distance, very easy to get there and back. I'm sure she was thrilled. Another plane flight. So flights take time, take money, just something to think about in your family dynamic. I won't go through all the rest, but of course, the deal breaker for most students, if there's no Chipotle, they're out. So make sure you stop at the Chipotle, otherwise I guarantee they won't apply. Fit. It's really important to visit a variety of colleges. Oftentimes I see parents taking their kids to the reach schools only because that's super fun. I want to picture being here. I want to picture a parents' weekend here. I want to picture my student thriving here. That's great, but you should also visit some of the schools that are less selective, your target schools and your likely schools, because you want your students to get excited about a range of schools. It's a good idea to follow the college's official social media online. See what's going on the weekend. Is the only thing to do play bingo on a Friday night, or are they bringing in first run movies, comedians, things like that? The student newspaper online really lets you know what issues there are on campus. Registration problems, safety issues, racial tensions, kind of the underbelly of a college that you want to investigate before you would commit to 4 years there. The newspapers also talk about the good things that are happening on campus. What are kids fired up about? What's good that's happening on campus? Talking to current students is the best. They're right there right now, and your student will also relate a lot more to them because they're the same age. This guide is my favorite book. It's updated every year, and it is research, not rumor. They go and talk to students every year on the campus to get a sense of the culture on campus. What's it like? Is everyone strung out during lunch and plugged in and working during their lunch? Or are they unplugged and actually having a conversation? Not saying one or the other is better than the other, but which is better for your student. And trying to remember that this is 4 years for the student, not for the parent. It is very hard to do. It was hard for me also, but something to keep in mind. And then that little visual, try to follow the advice of the college counselor, the people who are staying current with all the changes in the process. Try to block out the noise of the process that you'll hear, well, so-and-so had perfect this, perfect that, didn't get in anywhere. There's always going to be somebody stirring the pot. Everyone will have an opinion. Make sure that your student's opinion and the family's opinion are what are guiding the train here. I love how they put mom jeans up for me, really. Thankfully, we're on Zoom, so you can't tell if I'm wearing mom jeans or not.
They're bespoke mom jeans.
Bespoke mom jeans. Exactly. So why are we putting so much emphasis on fit? Your student or seniors on the call, you've worked very hard in high school to get a good result where you want to go, right? You didn't work that hard to just get the process over with and then end up at a place that's not a good match for you. You transfer after a year, again, not the end of the world, but it's a little bit more work. And if the student's unhappy, the parent's unhappy. And sometimes you may have paid your tuition and then it doesn't work out, you don't get it back. So that's why fit is a big factor here. Affordability. I find it very difficult when a student gets accepted to their top choice school and the family has not done any financial homework to figure out what it will cost, and they're not able to make it happen. College is crazy expensive, and that's why the college funding coach, Brock, and his team can help you figure out what makes sense for your family.
Yeah, I'll just chime in on that real quickly, Kathleen. It's interesting. If you think about buying a house as an example, when you buy a house, the mortgage company pre-approves you for a certain amount, right? And you have to jump through hoops. You sort of have to show them what your finances look like, your income, et cetera. That doesn't exist in the college process. And so oftentimes, I was going to say kids, but we'll say families get very focused on great schools. And the problem is that those great schools are really expensive. And so mom and dad may say, well, gosh, my kid got into this school. Whatever, you fill in the blank on what that school is. And they think, okay, well, it's a great school. We're going to figure it out. We're going to go for it. And it has tremendously detrimental effects on all the other pieces of the puzzle, right? And the other side of that equation is sometimes parents look at a sticker price and they say to the child, well, we can't afford that school. Right? Now, sometimes I hear families that they say to their kids, you know, kid, if you do well in school, take great classes, you know, take as many APs as you can, do well on your standardized tests, get involved in activities and become the president or the captain, we'll figure out how to pay for the schools. And then the child gets accepted at those great schools and mom and dad say the same thing. Well, we can't afford that school. You've got 2 younger siblings we have to pay for. And it just creates a lot of conflict within the family. The point is, again, the earlier you can start on this stuff and almost have like a pre-approval process, right? Take a big picture view of this. Because college is so expensive, and because I believe finances needs to be one of the aspects when considering fit, it's really important that you go through and say, okay, if my kids go to a school in this cost range, what's the effect on our ability as parents to retire at the time and in the lifestyle that we want? I know we're on Zoom. If we were in an auditorium, I'd say, hey, show of hands, how many of you parents would one day like to retire, right? And for those of you raising your hands, right, the idea is college might be that last big hurdle before retirement. So how do you do some good planning? We've got some software tools that we utilize with our families to really kind of do that pre-approval process and walk you through and figure out what the impact of various schools may be. If you need to take out student loans, what that repayment might look like, all those type of things. So really important aspect of this, in addition to all the good things that Kathleen's talking through. So thanks, Kathleen.
Yeah, you bet. This is another great book to take a look at. Where You Go Is Not Who You'll Be. Frank Bruni, who I think was education editor, I always get it mixed up if it was the Times, I think it's the New York Times, writes about people who are very successful, and success is defined in many, many ways, who did not go to the big crazy name colleges. So it's a good book to kind of put things in perspective. And, you know, since Brock showed a book, oh wait, is this a book that I wrote? Oh, I guess it is. We're not gonna promote it though. Just had to go there. All right, I'm going to turn it over to my buddy Greg.
Thank you, Kathleen. Fit is extraordinarily important, whether it's a pair of mom jeans from Target or a bespoke dress shirt from Kith. I'm going to talk a little bit about college campus visits because I'm the most widely traveled of the college coaches. Kathleen's idea of a great vacation is 2 days at her mom's beach house in Ocean City. But, and it is a nice home, but it's not Miami where I am right now, and Aiden will be in a month. It's not New York City, it's not the Faroe Islands. But anyway, visits are extraordinarily important. And I know as seniors, many of you have probably already been on visits or planning visits over the summer and into the fall. It really is the best way to see if a college is a good fit for you. But you need to look both at the college and at the local community because you're starting a whole new chapter in your life. So you want a good fit for yourself, both academically and socially and emotionally. Those two things go hand in hand. One of the best things to do is to take in the campus vibe when you're there. Go to those places where the students are hanging out, the libraries, the student centers, the cafeterias, see what they're doing, talk to some of the students, check out what they're doing both academically and socially. As Kathleen had mentioned earlier, treat all colleges equally. A lot of our clients have gone on to colleges that were not initially on their list, that may have been recommended by us or that they have visited then and really fell in love with. So don't just focus on those reach schools, but visit as many schools as is geographically possible for you. And then most importantly, stroll through not only the campus, but through the community to get a sense of the surrounding area, because again, you're creating a whole life for yourself. Just some other things to do as you're visiting. Pick up a copy of the student newspaper. Again, as Kathleen had mentioned earlier, when you're looking at official social media accounts, school papers, that is what the school is putting out, but it's also student edited and it's showing what students are really interested in. So look at the articles, look at the editorials, look at the ads. Again, you get a sense of the school and the community. try to meet with a rep when you're there. If you have the opportunity to meet with a rep who reads for your school, that's great. And keep visual and verbal notes. I'm sure like most of you, I carry my iPhone with me everywhere. And I'm a visual person, so I take photos of what I see. And then that's a great reminder to go back and look at your photos and sort of remember what you liked and even what you didn't like about the campus.
And Greg, what about supplements?
Oh, yes, thank you very much. That's in parentheses. It should be in bold. College visits are also a great thing when you go to write your supplements, because for those supplements that say why the University of Maryland or why Princeton, having a personal anecdote from a visit is the best thing you can write, because you don't want to just parrot back something that you've read from the website that the reps already know about their school. So having that personal experience, that's really gold for a supplemental essay. Thanks for the reminder, Kathleen.
Anytime.
And then going back again to what Kathleen and Aiden were both saying, separate for perspective. If you're traveling with your family, it's great to take separate tours. The parents take one tour, the student takes another tour. It gives you some much needed separation, but also you get different perspectives, and then you can come back together and compare notes, and you cover more ground that way also. So that's another good tip. Now I'm going to turn it over to George, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about
why the college coaches. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, everyone, for paying attention so far. I've had 1.5 slides. I didn't make the speaker list, so I guess I'm just kind of jumping in here. But I have, again, this slide and one more. These are some statistics from our class of 2023. These are really indisputable. These are unbelievably great stats. I'm kind of afraid to show them if any of you come back next year and they're not quite as high. Anyway, we got in 86% of our kids got into one of their top 3 schools. So when they first sit down with us, we kind of understand what their top 3 are, what their targets are, what their reaches are. And 86% got into one of their top 3 choices, which is really unbelievable. We also push our kids to apply early. So 87% of them were admitted early, which includes early action or early decision. And again, these statistics aren't bent to our whims, right? If you go onto our website, you'll see we have an incredible set of banners going across. And again, we're not pushing every kid to say, you got to go to an Ivy, you got to go to a top 50 school. We're sending the kids to the places where we think they will succeed, where they'll be happy, where they will thrive. And we're not messing with these. Some of our competition says, oh, well, we got 80% of our applicants in the University of Michigan, and the national average is 15%. So we're, 6 times better. So, you can do anything with statistics, and I could probably come up with some of those, but I haven't. So, and then of the people that recommend us, we're actually 97%, which is incredible. And the 3 people that were neutral, who do not recommend, they're going to Boston College, Carnegie Mellon, and Davidson. So I think they're going to be okay. Crazy great schools by all measures. And my last slide here, what customers love about us. First of all, we have what I would say is reasonable fees compared to the industry. It's certainly not inexpensive, but people find that we're very much worth what we charge. And we don't say, hey, here's a huge package, which is $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. It gives you everything. But instead, we put our service into bundles. So you can say, this is what I want from this, and this is what I want from that. And most of our services are actually hourly, except for the college consulting piece, which is the bulk of what we do, which is, again, kind of in a bundle, which we give to you at a predictable fixed fee, and we tell you exactly what you get and the number of meetings and the intellectual property that we provide to you. We have 100% of our Google reviews are 5-star. We also have literally probably 150 testimonials on our website. I can't keep up with posting them there. And I think Brock said this is our whole team. We actually have another handful of head coaches who are not on this call that Kathleen works with. So would certainly encourage all of you to set up an introductory call. Again, Kathleen goes on all of those. sets you up with the right head coach for what you need. We have summer classes that still have some room. You can book them. We actually have one starting on Monday in downtown DC. And last of all, kind of talking about our people, we have 15 to 45 years of experience. So there's an incredible difference between a college counselor, which 90% of our clients are private schools. Those college counselors, have 5 to 7 years of experience. They're pretty good. They know what they're doing. But a counselor that has 2 to 5 times that level of experience will give you that edge. And you can see that when you go to our website and see our great little fireworks that kind of show you our statistics and where our kids are going next year. So I think we're ready to go into questions. As mentioned at the beginning, you can put the question in the chat. You may also put the question in the Q&A. So the Q&A basically comes directly to us. So if you want to ask a question anonymously or what have you, you can send it there. But you can also put it into the chat, whatever you're more comfortable with. And I've got a couple of questions, so I'm going to ask these, if that's all right. Brock, do you have anything to say before we get into
just real quickly before you dive in on that,
Yeah.
I'm going to put in the chat, I'm going to put a link to our survey. That survey will also pop up in your browser. By doing that after tonight's workshop, it actually gives you free access to our parent portal. In that we call it our mini vault. And you've got access. Some of the parents were asking about the recording. We'll make that recording available by Friday. We should have it up there. But once you've completed it, you'll have access to sort of behind the firewall to not only those archived webinars, but also lots and lots of good calculators, some white papers, all kinds of stuff. It's all free. It's just behind the firewall. You have to spend maybe 60 to 90 seconds to fill out this survey, and then you've got access to everything. So again, it will pop up in your browser when you leave Zoom, but also I just put the link, which is just CFC, as in College Funding Coach, cfcsurvey.org. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, George, and let's get some Q&A going.
Great, thank you. And so the first question is for Kathleen. Kathleen, does every school have a college counselor that writes letters? And is this separate from the letters of recommendation that students request?
Okay, yes. So every student will have a college counselor in their high school. The college counselors generally do write letters. The length of the letter and the detail of the letter depends on the counselor, depends on their caseload, how many letters they have to write, in other words. So yes, and that's another reason too, to also give the college counselor at the school some information to help him, she, her, them write. There is an option where some counselors don't write letters and the student is not penalized for that. They're not going to say, I'm not going to write for this student or I'm not going to write for that student. Tends to be at schools that are very, very large and the counselors just don't get a chance to know all the students. So when the student's file goes from the high school, it will include a counselor rec if that's how the school works, and 2 teacher recommendations at most. So that's kind of how the package goes with the transcript as well.
Okay, super. Another follow-up question, Kathleen, when you're talking about retention rate, can you talk about what a good retention rate would consist of?
Yeah, I would say 86 to 90% is a good retention rate. Some students do leave after freshman year for a host of reasons. 1, maybe it wasn't a good fit. 2, maybe the family had financial challenges. 3, maybe the student had a health crisis or somebody in their family had a health crisis and they needed to move home. So I would say in the 86 to 90% zone is very good.
Okay, super. Greg, a question for you about the essays. How should the original essay, the kind of main essay, be structured in comparison to the supplements? So I think maybe if you could talk about kind of the differences and kind of the very brief overview of kind of how you do the essay.
Okay, yeah, the main essay is the essay that is going to go out with the Common App to all colleges. So it's really the face of the application. It gives a snapshot of the student, something that's not on another part of the application. So it's not about grades. It's not necessarily about sports or extracurriculars or community service. It should be written in a more personalized style. It's not an academic paper. We suggest writing in first person, active voice. It varies from the supplemental essays because it's not college specific. The essay prompts are up now. They don't change much year for year, but 90% of the students I work with choose the last one, which is write about a topic of your choice. And those prompts are up now. The supplemental essay prompts are a little trickier because they are specific to specific schools and they do change a little bit, but they will come out the 1st of August. So now is the time to write the Common App essay and start the supplements then after August.
Right, thank you, Greg. Kathleen, a question for you. Can you touch on the honors programs and your thoughts on them, particularly those that require a certain score on a standardized test before a certain date, like September of 2023?
So I am a big fan of honors colleges in general, particularly at larger public or state universities, because they can make a big school feel smaller. Your student will be in classes with some of the same students, not all the time, but several of their classes. So it's kind of an instant community there. Oftentimes too, honors programs offer perks that matter, such as priority registration. And if you're a freshman at a big university, you're the lowest priority. So if you can get a little bit of a bump, that's awesome. Honors programs also have usually very, very strong, intriguing, engaging professors, and they have some less important but super fun perks as free, best dorms, free pizza at events, early access to events, things like that. There, with the test optional movement, I think this is where the question is heading. Some colleges, not a lot, but some are requiring or using standardized testing, SAT, ACT, as a metric for determining who would get into the honors college or sometimes merit aid. But it's a very personal question about whether to take standardized tests or not. And I would say the majority of colleges are not linking merit aid to test scores at this point.
Another question around timelines, Kathleen. It's kind of, when should students start applying for colleges? Like, should that be now? Is September too early? And then for Brock, when should they be applying for financial aid?
Okay, so applying to college, I would say I am a big fan of early action. That is when the colleges receive your materials, your application, and they act on it early, which means they'll let you know by mid-December. Let's say the deadline is November 1st, which is kind of a normal deadline. Mid-December, you find out if you're accepted, jazz hands. If you're denied, sad face, or if you're deferred, which means you're going to move your application to the regular pool. But a deferral is not a denial. So students can then submit another rec if the college allows, or updates, new grades, things like that. Did I hit on that question, George? Enough of it?
I think so. And then Brock, they wanted to know about financial aid. What's the timeline? And there was another question around FAFSA, because there's some confusion when the FAFSA is out and when that you'll be able to apply for that.
Yeah, perfect. And I see Ryan's question that he heard on a tour that it was changing to December/January. This is the big moving target question. So yes, they are changing the FAFSA. And so there's some really important terminology. If you are a parent of a rising senior and or have younger children, you'll want to know a lot of this stuff. This is a pitch to fill out that survey, because archived on our website, we've got a whole webinar about the FAFSA changes. So pay attention to that. But the short answer here is yes, it's changing. It's taking effect for next school year. Ordinarily, the FAFSA opened up on October 1st. So as a parent of a high school senior, you could fill out that FAFSA starting on October 1st. And by the way, there's a whole piece on this. They're looking at prior year's income. So in 2023, they're looking at your for a student who's matriculating in 2024, I should say it that way, they're looking at your 2022 income. And so when you fill out that FAFSA, they want to know what your income was for the prior year. But now, because of these changes and because of some government backlog and things like this, and so a period where they were trying to get feedback on the new format and these type of things, they have said that it's going to be available in December, but I have not seen that guaranteed in any way. Point is, be aware, make sure you're checking your emails, make sure you're checking with the counselors, check in with us, check in with the college coaches. The point is, be aware of that because it is a little bit of a moving target. I would speculate that probably as fall kind of opens up, we'll have more of a definitive answer. But yes, it's going to change. Be aware of some of the tweaks that they've made to the formulas. This does not affect the CSS profile as of yet, which that applies to about 180 schools that also require that additional form. So just be aware as you're going through the process, which forms your school uses. Every single college and university requires the FAFSA. So if you want to be considered for need-based or merit-based aid, you need to fill out the FAFSA. Even if you don't think that you will be eligible for aid, I would still tell you it's probably a really good idea to complete the FAFSA.
Right. I see we're getting pretty close to 8 o'clock. We'll keep going through some questions here for probably another 10, 15 minutes. And want people to know, I put in the chat some information about the college coaches. Obviously, you can go to thecollegecoaches.com and then the college funding coach, is it .org?
.org, yep.
collegefundingcoach.org. Tons of unbelievably great resources on the college funding coach site. I know that I've dug through those. It's really an amazing set of resources and great information for people, whether you make $50,000 a year or $500,000 a year, really invaluable for anyone. And of course, our site's got some pretty darn good stuff on it as well. So Kathleen, can you talk a teeny bit more about planning visits? When you go on the website, you just kind of show up, do you make an appointment? What's important to do when you're there? I know we talked a good amount about that, but.
Yeah, sure. So to sign up for a visit, you go to the college's website and there'll be a little area that says visit us. A little calendar will pop up to show you when tours are available. Generally, there's a 10 a.m. and a 2 p.m. tour, and the tour often includes an information session, which is run by an admissions rep that gives an overview of the college. So I would expect when you're visiting a campus, I would allot about 2 hours for your visit in order to accommodate the tour and the info session. I would not recommend scheduling more than 2 tours a day if you want to keep your head attached to your shoulders. If you do more than 2, everyone's gonna lose it. And always bring water, snacks, all of that good stuff. But yes, you generally do not show up to colleges. You can, however, if you happen to be in the area and the office is closed and you're over the river and through the woods visiting grandma for Thanksgiving, you can scan a code on the admissions door and it'll take you on a self-guided tour, which is fine as well.
Another question on good fit, right? So basically, can you pick a college because you feel at home and love the vibes, or what other kind of substantial information would you want to kind of be able to decide, yes, this is the college for me? And I guess we can't give the 30-hour answer.
I didn't know I had a 30-hour answer.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
I don't know, Aiden, can I put you on the spot and ask you to kind of weigh in on how did you, I covered the factors in the presentation, but how did you come to a decision about what made sense for you?
Made sense for me. Can you just repeat?
Sure, like how the question is, George, can you kind of repeat the question?
Sure. The question was, talking about a good fit, is there something in addition to the good fit and the good vibes that you would want to consider when deciding it's the right college for you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's going to be, I know it's kind of corny, but you'll really just know, like you'll weigh all your options and you'll be like, it'll just kind of outshadow all the good will outshadow the bad, if that makes sense. Like everything will just kind of fall. You're going to be like, I really like this location. I really like the students. The students was a really big aspect to me because I wanted to feel connected to people. More than anything else, I wanted to feel like I could see myself, you know, become really good friends with people that go here and have things to do and things to talk about and not get bored or not feel like I'm, you know, in someone else's spot, like I'm, you know, like I'm not supposed to be here. So it's all about getting a feel for the students, I'd say. The students, the academics, the professors a lot. Definitely FIST Guide is great. I remember looking at that a lot to help narrow down my search. And it's all just gonna be, you know, kind of gut feeling and stuff like that. Not really stuff. It's not really gonna be like a, you know, one size fits all answer, but it's just kind of weighing everything that you have and making sure that those pros outweigh the cons
Hey,
significantly.
one thing that we've done with families that, again, no educational consulting here, but just a simple little tool is almost make like an Excel spreadsheet, right? Have the schools that you're considering across the top, down the left-hand side, have the factors that are important to you. And the team went through some of those earlier, right? Like, what is important to you? The size, the geography, the major, college sports, Greek life, whatever those factors may be that are important to you and your family and your child. And then just start kind of filling in the spreadsheet a little bit. Great way, by the way, for parents and their children to just sort of bounce back and forth on ideas. Hey, what'd you think of this? What'd you think of that? And it'll really help you hone in on what that right fit is. I think Aiden's spot on. You know, it may not be one specific thing. It's the combination of all of them. And it gets back to the word that was used in the question, which is kind of that vibe, right? It's the culmination of everything of why you might choose school A over school B.
The next question is around what's the best rule to submit test scores and how do you decide that? I'll obviously take that one since I'm the smartest guy in the room here, with the exception of Aiden, who's not in the room. Basically, each school will give a range of what their 25 to 75 percentile is. So as a good rule of thumb, if you're in that range, it's a good idea to submit scores if you have them. And I think you also need to understand that with the test optional movement and so many schools that don't need any tests at all, that the people who are submitting scores are the people who do really well. So that 25 to 75% keeps moving right. So if you're, you know, if you're kind of close within that range, it still might be a good idea to submit. We work with a couple of testing companies, TopScore and Compass, kind of depending upon your needs. And we're happy to talk to you about which one we recommend, but we work with both of them for a very long time, and they can go into great depth as to, you know, when you want to do that, and also talk about, you know, if you have a good test score, sometimes you send them to one school and you don't send it to another. Like your test scores might be fantastic for 80% of your schools, but the reach schools, you're really not in the range. So maybe you don't want to submit to them. So there's some strategies around that as well. Kathleen, did I answer that good enough?
Yeah, shockingly, yes. Good job.
Okay, thank you. And I don't know if the question is for Brock or Kathleen, with FAFSA changes, are schools talking about making any changes to early decision?
That's
Sorry.
a
Well, I was going to defer to you.
That's a tough one.
I haven't seen anything talking about that. I would imagine, you know, they're sort of independent but connected at the hip processes, right? And one of the nice things about early action and early decision, right? Like they say that you know, they're binding. You know, early decision is binding, and the one sort of get out of jail free is if the school comes back with an offer and you say, well, you know, your marketing brochures said you meet, you know, so much aid, and the reality is we thought we were going to get more money and we didn't. It's the one opportunity that you then have to sort of get out of the early decision, right? I don't recommend that. I would tell you, go through a process and have a really good idea of what kind of package you might get. We can help with that. But the idea is, I don't think that there will be any impact to those early action and early decision deadlines. Anything to add to that, Kathleen?
No, I agree with everything you've said. And also early decision and early action are very important to the colleges. So it's in their best interest to keep those two programs. I have had some colleges offer that they'll do what's called an early read, a pre-read of your finances. where you can say, hey, my student's thinking of applying early decision, want to make sure we can afford it. Could somebody take a look at our finances? So that's another angle as well.
Yeah, what Kathleen and the team can do a whole much better job than I on is these schools on the admissions front, they pay a whole lot of attention to what's called yield. If they make an offer to a student, like was said previously, I don't recall who said it, but they want to have a reasonably good degree of certainty that they offer you admission, you're showing up on September 1st. And so that's really, really important. And so those tools that Kathleen's talking about are ways that they can have a really good degree of certainty that this student's going to show up. And so that goes through all the process of early decision, early action, deferral, et cetera. They want to know that you want to be there. And part of that is just going through this process. So.
Super. I think just two last questions here. One is, Kathleen, can you talk a little bit about rolling admissions and when is a good time to get your application in?
Perfect. I love rolling admissions, and I'll just take a second to explain what that is. Rolling means if you'll submit a student submits the application, let's say mid-October. That means the student's part of the application, the common application, the essay, that kind of thing. The college then, once the materials are received, will roll out a decision in about 4 to 6 weeks. So it's an accelerated, even more so usually than the early action timeline we talked about, or early decision in mid-December. The key thing to remember though, and I think somebody had a question earlier about should I apply in September? The student can submit their materials anytime, but the colleges won't make a decision until the high school has submitted their pieces as well. The transcript, the teacher recommendations, the school profile, the counselor letter. That's when they're going to read and evaluate the file. So it's fine to submit early, but just be aware that the colleges won't take a look at the whole file till it's complete. Having said that, be nice to your educators. Do not say we're waiting, we're waiting, we're waiting. It takes time to get all the transcripts updated with senior year courses and things like that. But by all means, rolling is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. And University of Pittsburgh is one of my favorite rolling schools, by the way.
Two kind of related questions, Kathleen, if you can just clarify early action versus early decision and the difference. And then also, talking about early decision and early action in terms of aid and the impact on that.
Okay, so
that's the money question. That's it.
okay, so early action, the way I remember it is they will act on your application early, right? So if you apply by typically November 1st is the main early action deadline. As I mentioned earlier, mid-December is generally the popular timeline for finding out accepted, denied, or deferred. So early action is not binding. You can find out in December if you were admitted, and you have all the way until May 1st of senior year to decide. So in my opinion, there is no downside to early action, okay? Unless, there's always an unless, right? Unless you have a student that the GPA is really not where it could be. And I'll be very direct, like if your GPA is 2.3 or something low and you kind of need to get it up higher a little bit more, then you might want to wait. But I'm going down the rabbit hole. Early decision, the way I remember that, it's like a judge's decision. It's final. You're going to jail. Although college is much better than jail. Not that I've ever been to jail because I haven't, and this is being recorded, right? Okay. No, but early decision, you can apply to one college and one college only. If you get admitted, you must attend, and you have to withdraw your other applications before hearing. So for example, Aiden applied early decision to University of Miami, got accepted. Awesome. He'll never know if he was going to get accepted to those other schools because he had to withdraw them. So you might say, well, why would anybody want to do early decision? Well, there are some colleges that take almost half their class early decision, so it could be significant. However, I do sometimes see families make the mistake of pushing their students to just pick somewhere to go early decision. And that goes back to fit. It's not the right way to go. In terms of financial aid, I would say it with early decision. Do you want to take that one, Brock, or you want me to?
Yeah, well, I would just say it's a little bit, I agree wholeheartedly with what Kathleen just said. It's a little bit though, buyer beware. And what I mean by that, I'll give you just an example. I had a panicked call last May, I suppose, from a parent who says, my daughter got accepted at her dream school, University of Chicago, got accepted early decision. And so we rescinded all of the other applications. Then we got our offer of financial aid. And the offer of financial aid was way less than we thought. In fact, we didn't get a dime. And I know, like, I've seen this movie before. Because they went on the tour, they read all the glossy brochures, and everything says, I'm picking on University of Chicago just because that's a real world anecdotal story. Said, 94% of our students receive financial aid. Our average package is, $1 million, whatever the number is. It looks and sounds really, really great. But this particular family lives in a high net worth area, makes pretty good money compared to the rest of the country. Now, they also have high expenses in this area, right? But the point is, I would say this family doesn't feel particularly wealthy, but the way that the financial aid formulas work, they say you're wealthy. And so now they're stuck in this dilemma of kid got into the dream school, mom and dad are likely going to take on significant debt that will impact their financial future and or their daughter's financial future. My point in saying all of this is do your homework, right? This is a great time. Even if you've got a rising senior, spend the next month, couple of months doing some legwork to say, okay, here's kind of where we are. You've eliminated a lot of the variables already, right? I worked a month or two ago with a family who said, we want to put the maximum $85,000 as an annual contribution into a 529 plan for our 2.5-year-old. And I told him I thought it was a bad idea because we don't know if your kid's going to go to school, where they're going to go to school, what the cost of school is going to be, what the market's going to do over the next 16 years, all those different variables. I said, you should still save, but I don't know that that's the right bucket in which to be saving. So probably expanded on that question too much, but that's sort of where my head is on all that.
No, that's great. Thanks.
So I think that's about it for our questions. Kathleen, any final words of wisdom? And then we'll kick it over to you, Brock, for anything else.
Yeah, I would just want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. And I want to thank Brock and the College Funding Coach for running this webinar and inviting us to present, and highly encourage you. They're a trusted organization. I've had many families find their advice right on point and very, very helpful. So thanks, Brock, and thanks to our audience too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kathleen and team. And again, thanks for everyone's grace and patience. I didn't expect the 7-mile commute to be close to an hour tonight. So, but we made it and we're here, and I hope it was time well spent. And I would just say the Mutual Admiration Society here, because we work with a lot of educational consultants. There aren't a lot that we invite to come present with us. I think that, the team at the College Coaches does an awesome job. They've certainly got the pedigree and just do great work. And the feedback we get from parents is simply that, they not only know their stuff, but they do things the right way. And, sometimes it's hard to work with 16, 17, 18-year-old children sometimes, right? And they do a good job of getting them to do the things that they need to do in a timely fashion, and oftentimes with a smile on their face. So, and that's really a good thing when we can get sort of the college selection side and the financial piece of things to align and, create some harmony at home and all that good stuff. So with that, please do take some time to fill out that survey. The link is in there, but again, cfcsurvey.org. You can put in there too, if you want to make it easy. I saw George put the link for the College Coaches. Obviously, feel free to do that if you want to schedule a consultation with them. If you're filling out the survey on our side and you say, hey, I'd like to meet with the College Coaches, we'll make sure we get that information to them as well. That maybe makes it easier for you. and you can do some one-stop shopping. With that, George, Greg, Aiden, Kathleen, anything at all from your end?
All good.
All right. Well, hey,
Thank you very much.
thank you, everyone. Thanks for your spending your time. Sorry we ran over a little bit, but hopefully it was time well spent. We've still got close to 100 people on, so we must have been doing something right. But good luck to everyone. Enjoy the rest of your summer, and let us know how we can help. Thanks very much.